the WBA has announced that there has been no agreement reached between Luis Ortiz and Alexander Ustinov for their upcoming fight as part of the WBA heavyweight elimination tournament. So it will now go to purse bids, and the purse bid will take place, or the purse bids will start on May 19th. So yeah, we're going to have this fight go ahead, it seems, unless one of the guys pulls out and gets a better offer maybe from a different organization. Then this fight here between King Kong, as he calls himself, the real King Kong, Luis Ortiz, and Alexander Ustinov is going to go ahead. Luis Ortiz is the unbeaten southpaw Cuban, big puncher, been knocking everybody out. And Alexander Ustinov is a big, tall, 6'9", 300-pound. I believe he's Russian. I think is he built from Belarus? I think he might be built from Belarus or Russia, but either way, big 6'9" guy, strong guy, 6'8" or 6'9", 300 pounds. Only has one loss on his record, and that was to Kubrat Pulev a couple years ago. And for my money, since he's come back from that loss to Kubrat Pulev, he's actually improved. I know he hasn't been fighting exactly the best quality opposition, but to me, he looks a bit looser, a bit sharper than he did before. So I personally think he's improved his technique at the very least. So it's going to be an interesting one. It's going to be interesting to see if the real King Kong, Luis Ortiz, can do a better job on Ustinov than Kubrat Pulev did. Because Kubrat Pulev did a pretty damn good job. You know, Pulev was fighting a much bigger guy, but he used his superior skills, his superior technique to outbox Ustinov and to really punish him with a jab. We all know that Kubrat Pulev has got a great jab, and he was really punishing Ustinov with that left jab. And eventually, in the, I think it was the 11th round, he had Ustinov down, and Ustinov stayed down for the count. So will Ortiz be able to do a better job than that? Remains to be seen, but it's going to be interesting. And it's going to be interesting seeing, I mean, we obviously saw Ortiz against Tony Thompson, who's, you know, an inch or so taller than Luis Ortiz. But now we're going to see him against Ustinov, who's massively taller than Ortiz and heavier as well. And Ortiz, you would have to imagine, is going to try and fight as defensively as he can. He must know that, sorry, not Ortiz, Ustinov is going to try and fight as defensively as he can, because he must know that Ortiz is a serious puncher. He's technically very good. And with the Eastern Europeans, because they tend to stay amateur, at least the last generation of Eastern Europeans, you know, the generation that certainly Ustinov comes from, and Klitschko, etc., even Kubrat Pulev, they tend to stay amateur longer than a lot of the Americans do, a lot of the British fighters do, etc. And because of that, they seem to have more knowledge of the amateur game, and they seem to have more respect for fighters within the amateur system. And they tend to, even as professionals, remember the reputations that certain fighters had in the amateurs and respect a guy who was well known in the amateurs when he turns professional, more so than people do in the Western world. And I'm sure that Ustinov will know. He might not know specifically about Luis Ortiz, but he certainly knows all about Cuban boxing. And he'll know that this guy is going to be well schooled. He's Cuban. You know, I'm sure he's seen a lot of the fight footage. And I think he'll probably be trying to box as defensively as possible. I'm not sure he's going to be, you know, on his bike, Amir Khan style, but I think he's going to try and be as careful as he possibly can be and use that 6'8" height to the best of his ability and try and mess Luis Ortiz around and not make it easy for him to get his punches off. And it's going to be interesting seeing how Luis Ortiz copes with that, because there's a lot of people out there saying Luis Ortiz could maybe beat Tyson Fury or give him a run for his money or beat everybody in the division other than Tyson Fury. I'm maybe, you know, in the latter camp. I think, based on what I've seen of Ortiz so far, and we're still discovering exactly what he can do and exactly how good he is, we don't really know quite yet. But from what I've seen so far, I think he'd probably beat everybody in the heavyweight division at this moment in time, other than Tyson Fury, possibly Vladimir Klitschko. Okay, but other than those two, I'd pick him to beat everybody if he was to fight them now. Because down the line, certain fighters might have improved and Ortiz may have deteriorated, in 12 months, 18 months or whatever. But in terms of right now, I'd, probably pick him to beat everybody apart from Fury and possibly Klitschko. But then again, Alexander Ustinov has got the opportunity to make a mockery of what I think. Maybe he'll go in there and mess Ortiz around and make him look overrated. Drop your comments in the comment section below, people. What do you think about this fight? How do you think it's going to go? Are you also like me, interested to see how Ortiz deals with a heavyweight this big? He's a similar kind of height to Tyson Fury. Ustinov probably don't have the, reach that Fury's got quite, but similar kind of height. A lot heavier than Fury, though. Definitely not as fast and mobile, but yeah, it's going to be interesting seeing Ortiz up against a fighter of those type of dimensions. And again, a guy who's only lost one fight. Yeah, so we'll see how Ortiz's performance compares to Pullev's. Drop it all in the comment section below, people. It's your boy Hatman, I'm out.